Hey guys, how's it going? It's Al. I have another preseason video for you for NFL. This one, we're going to talk about the quarterbacks that are available at all the different price points in week 1 on DraftKings. You know, I know that interest in fantasy football has been down this year because of, versus years past because of very many things, like a long laundry list of different reasons, and I totally understand why. But if you're here, let's have a little bit of an escape. Let's talk about week 1, which is still 4.5 weeks away. It's the 12th of August as I'm recording this. More videos are going to be put out by me. We're going to talk about the running backs. We're going to talk about wide receivers in week 1 and tight ends. We're going to do a top stacks video. There's going to be a ton of content on this channel. So if you guys are returning to this channel that have been here before, I appreciate you guys. Thank you for coming back. Drop a like on this video if you'd be so kind. Leave me a note in the replies of the top 3 quarterbacks that you're looking forward to rostering in week 1. And if you're new to the channel, appreciate you being here. I'd appreciate it if you subscribe to the channel, ring that notifications bell. It really helps me out a lot. It costs you absolutely nothing. So let's just get right to the list of quarterbacks for week 1 on DraftKings. All the way at the top of the list, for good reason, is Lamar Jackson at 8,100. You don't just get a QB1 when you're drafting Lamar Jackson. You also get an RB1. The amount of rushing yards and touchdowns and upside that he gave you on a week-to-week basis, especially on DraftKings, where you get a bonus when he gets 300 yards passing, or you get a bonus if he gets 100 yards rushing of 3 DraftKings points, is tremendous. And in games that shot out last year, and this game not predicted to be a game that could shoot out, the Ravens are 9-point favorites in this one. Yes, they do have the highest implied team total on the week for week 1, but not a very close spread. So it's not like there's going to be a lot of push and pull expected here. Now, if the Browns can get into the end zone a couple of times, that's going to keep the Ravens' feet on the throttle, or foot on the throttle, which will clearly help out with Lamar Jackson's possibilities. Here we see in the playoffs, 365, 143. He double bonused here, got you a bonus in this game. Did not in any of these weeks. Bonus here in week 13 against San Francisco. Still 26 points against one of the best defenses in the league at muting fantasy points. He had under 20 fantasy points one time last year at Pittsburgh, where he accounted for only 1 touchdown and had 4 turnovers in that game. So if you have the ability to pay up for Lamar Jackson, and I think that there is going to be much more of a stars and scrubs feel to daily fantasy football this year in 2020, with everything going on with the virus and usual injuries. The sites are going to, as we talked about on the first look, way too early first look lineup, sites are going to price up the players across the board. They're not going to have the 3,000 floor at running back, at least not in week 1, and I assume that that's going to stay throughout the season, which is going to push the backups to like 4,500 or 5,000 to try and avoid the ultra stars and scrubs every week. But I believe that there will be enough value for you in cash games or small field tournaments to be able to roster Lamar Jackson. You can pair him with his tight end Andrews or with Marquise Brown, or if you want to take a shot in the dark at a really low price guy like Boykin, if he catches a touchdown, gets you 15 fantasy points for a low price, fine. Russ Wilson, though, is involved in a game that should shoot out with an equally high total on the week. They are playing at Atlanta, always a good offensive environment. 49 is the total in that game. Seattle favored by 1. Russ Wilson should have to continue throttling in this game, and his efficiency in his career has been absolutely tremendous. Averaged 21.7 fantasy points per game last year. Very easy to pair with one of his 2 top pass catchers, whether that's going to be Lockett or DK Metcalf. Very easy to bring it back with one or more of the Atlanta players between Julio Jones, Calvin Ridley, or Hayden Hurst, and build a tournament lineup with a partial or full game stack, whether it's Russ with 1 guy and bring it back with 1, whether it's Russ with 2 guys bringing it back with 1, making it a 4-person stack, or Russ with a 2+2 stack. A lot of different ways you can go here, and that also goes for Matt Ryan on the other side of this. Same thing, different quarterback. Matt Ryan last year, the amount of times that he reached the bonus was just tremendous, and they're just, Yes, they brought in Gurley in Atlanta this year. No, Gurley was not the same running back in 2019 that he was in the 2 prior years. Based on that degenerative knee condition, I still think that he can run, but I don't know if he's the guy that you can lean on for 25 to 28 touches a week. We're going to find out if I'm right or wrong about that once week 1, 2, 3 gets here. But this is an offense that's still going to be highly predicated on its ability to just move the sticks by passing the ball. Look how many times the first, 6 weeks of the season, 300-yard bonus, multiple touchdowns, 300-yard bonus, multiple touchdowns, 300, multiple, 300, none, still had 19 points in his worst week in the first 5. This is a team that's going to rely heavily on the passing game. He is also going to have a very short tree of people that he's going to target, from Julio Jones at 1 to Ridley at 2 to Hurst at 3. Very easy for you to pair with 1 or 2 of his pass catchers and bring it back with one of the guys on the other team. 2 players who I believe finished in the top 5 in terms of end zone targets last year, with DK Metcalf leading the league in end zone targets, and Tyler Lockett, albeit a very small receiver, had a lot of end zone targets himself, as Russ does target his outside receivers when he gets near the goal line way more than other quarterbacks do. So this is another easy stack for you if you're going to go with Matt Ryan. Drew Brees, always good in the dome. And when you have a funnel defense like Tampa Bay, or a reverse funnel defense like Tampa Bay that will not allow you to run the football, so everything has to go to the outside and utilizing the passing game, he's got a fantastic pass catching back in Alvin Kamara. You also have Mike Thomas, maybe the best that does it in terms of fantasy receivers in the league. They added Emmanuel Sanders, a very professional receiver, although a wide receiver 2 in this Saints offense over the course of a season has not done a lot of great fantasy work for the last 5 or 6 years. They're still viable on a week-to-week basis for daily fantasy and to help Brees' stats, and Cook is still there at the tight end. So a lot of targets for him to throw to, high touchdown upside here, and high volume in a passing game, as they should not be able to run the ball effectively against that Tampa Bay defense. You're going to have to throw to win. Tom Brady, on the other side of that, does have Gronk. We'll see how good he can do. Has 2 absolutely fantastic wide receivers in Evans and Godwin. And in fact, can pass the ball pretty well, or catch the ball pretty well. Cap Morgan, thank you very much for the 1-year sub here on twitch.tv. Every one of these videos is recorded live on Twitch, so if you guys wanted to stop by the stream, there's a link down below in the description. It's easier for me to get to know you there. I banter a lot before and after we do these recordings, as opposed to just what you guys see on YouTube, which is, you guys just get to watch the video and maybe I reply to a comment when I have the time. But you want a little bit more back and forth and get to know the community and everything else, drop by the streams that are live on Twitch. During football season, I'm live 6 days a week. Right now in preseason, 3 days a week, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So Brady, on the other side of that, if you think that they're going to be chasing New Orleans in the dome, and you think that Brady still has a 300-yard game with multiple touchdowns in him, fine. But the pricing here at 6,500, less attractive to me than Josh Allen, the second best running quarterback in the game right now. All apologies to Cam Newton, who I still this is a Cam Newton stan account. I'm never gonna not like Cam Newton when he's healthy, and based on Stephania Bell giving him the clean bill of health after his year off, essentially he played 2 games and they were very kind of ugly games, and had surgery and a full year to recover. Stephania's given him the clean bill of health, and if she gives somebody a clean bill of health, I'm on board. But Josh Allen, clearly a threat with the ball in his hands. If he can get a little bit more accuracy, if he's improved in that area, right? And I'm not guaranteeing that he has, but if he has, they added a tremendous target in Stephon Diggs, who is one of the most efficient downfield wide receivers in the league. They still have Smokey Brown. They still have the king of dust underneath in Beasley. Knox is an emerging tight end, although not a dynamic offensive weapon, but he's not a plotting skillet for hands, toasters for hands type of pass catcher. He can do some things, and Josh Allen can keep you afloat with a really solid floor with his rushing potential and give you a high ceiling if he runs in 1 or 2. So if he gets multiple touchdowns and one of those is on the ground, gets you 250 passing yards, 60 rushing yards, 2 to 3 touchdowns, with one of them being with his legs. Much higher upside, in my opinion, against a very depleted Jets defense than Tom Brady because of the addition of his legs. Speaking of somebody who can use his legs to make things happen, Kyler Murray. But going up against San Francisco, I don't know if I want to play him against San Fran. He did have a good game against them in week 11 and a solid game against them in week 9 last year. As I said, buoyed by his ability to run the football. I'm going to hope that this offense takes a leap in efficiency in year 2 with Cliff Kingsbury and year 2 with Kyler Murray, because they added D-Hop. They still have Kirk, who I like a lot as a prospect, moving into his 3rd season, as well as Larry Fitzgerald, the venerable one, still not dropping passes and being able to operate underneath and not have to be the primary guy. There's a lot of weapons here for Kyler Murray, as well as Drake out of the backfield who can catch the ball. He's going to be under-owned, at least in week 1, because of that rough matchup with San Francisco. Probably a better tournament single stack with one guy bringing it back. If you wanted to bring it back with somebody like Kittle, go ahead, or one of their running backs like Mostert, but a high variance stack because of all the things that are involved there. Carson Wentz, I think that is going to be one of the higher owned quarterbacks in week 1. 1, because of his price on DraftKings. 2, because of how much people want to use the weapons that he has. Deshaun Jackson is going to be cheap. Zach Ertz is not as expensive as I believe he should be. Jalen Reagor, also a cheap option. And Miles Sanders, probably going to be the highest owned running back on the slate and very involved in the passing game. So he can be utilized in a stack with a quarterback and not be a negative correlated running back to him based on the correlation matrix. So Carson Wentz, also extremely viable, multiple touchdown threat. Doesn't really run it as much as he could have before because of his knee issue that he had before, but he still has the ability to move a little bit, but the rushing upside is not there like it is with so many of the other quarterbacks. But the passing upside is most certainly there, especially considering the matchup with the Washington football team. Aaron Rodgers at Minnesota, sure. I don't know if I'm buying, but I could buy it in a single stack with Devontae Adams if you want to go that route. I'm just, with the price that he's at, I'm not going to prioritize Rodgers, and I'm not going to play every single quarterback on the slate. My typical way to go when I build 150 lineups, okay, is I pick like 7, 8, 9 quarterbacks of the 28 that are on the slate. And I focus on building around those. So I'm going to ignore and fade a lot of different quarterbacks, whether it's based on their price. Quarterback ownership is never super duper high, right? Like 15 to 20 is a very high ownership for a quarterback, because quarterbacks are more owned based on the stacks that people are building around them. And quarterback scoring is... the funnel of quarterback scoring is not all that wide. The highest scoring quarterback on a week will have somewhere between 28 and 35 points. And if your quarterback has 24 to 26, they're still viable. And there's a lot of paths to 25 plus points. So there could be, unless somebody goes completely bonkers for 45 at quarterback, you can win a GPP with any one of 5 or 6 quarterbacks on a week. But the position players, the running backs, the wide receivers, and possibly the tight ends are more important, more integral to winning a GPP because of the difference between the number 1 scorer at that position and the number 10 scorer at that position. The distance between the number 1 scoring quarterback and the 10th scoring quarterback on any week is not all that high. So it comes more down to the stacks that you want to build, as well as their price point that you're buying in. Cam Newton is somebody that I do want to buy into against Miami. Like I said, he's healthy again. I don't necessarily need to pair him with one of his pass catchers, but we can with N'Keal Harry or Julian Edelman if that's the route that you want to go. I believe that he still has the ability to do it with his legs. One of the best inside the 5 rushers that exists in the NFL over the last decade in terms of both efficiency and totals of touchdowns. He gives the Patriots options in play calling that they haven't had for the last 18 years with Tom Brady, who can't really move. But the long-standing joke that anytime they got to the 1, Tom Brady is undefeated on quarterback sneaks. Now imagine you have Cam Newton in that position if this offense can move the ball, and I expect that they'll be able to. And the issue that this defense, the issue that this offense had last year was that the defense was so good that the offense could just sit on leads and play real slow. With the players that opted out on defense for the Patriots, I think that this defense is still going to be good, but it's not going to be as dominant as it was for chunks of last season, which is going to mean the offense is going to have to be relied on to score some more points. And that all leads to great things for Cam Newton, who's only at 6,100 and extremely cheap for the price. Matthew Stafford going up against Chicago. We know who he's going to throw the ball to. Probably not going to target him against Chicago, but I get it if that's the route you want to go. Phillip Rivers. I never have a lot of Phillip Rivers. Teddy Bridgewater. I hate the Vegas defense, so that's one plus. I can't stand Carolina's defense, so that's another plus, right? These are two really terrible defenses and offenses that have some playmakers on them with Christian McCaffrey, with DJ Moore. Samuel is somebody that I really like and believe that is going to have a great bounce back season based on the way that he's utilized with Curtis Samuel moving into that. They're going to move him into the slot. They're going to put him in the backfield. They're going to have him shift around a lot and hopefully throw him the ball more underneath as opposed to just a YOLO 9 deep threat. That is going to go to Robbie Anderson now. So Bridgewater does have some talent for him to work with, but at 5,900, he's not as cheap as I thought he would be in week one. I thought he'd be around 54, maybe 5,500. That 5,600 isn't really going to deter me from using him in week one, but like, I think I would have just felt better about rostering him, and maybe everybody else is thinking that as well, so it'll hold his percentage down another 5 or 8% in week one versus what it could have been if he was like easily the cheapest guy that was viable at 53 or 5,400. So that price hike to 5,900 might do good for you in terms of tournament ownership. Minshew, who grew his hair out, now it's down to his shoulders, still has that great mustache and has great ability with his legs to give you a good floor of fantasy points. And with the receiving core that he has, kind of a sneaky play, but again, the price at 5,800, not thrilling. Garoppolo, I think, will be popular based on the easy stackability with his wide receivers and the price at 5,800 and the matchup with Arizona, which is probably still going to be tasty this year. The cheapest guys that I would probably consider for week one, if Fitz is in play, I'm going to have Fitz stacks in tournaments because is it ugly? Most certainly. Are there injuries on Miami's passing attack? Yep. And that means that we know where the targets should go in week one. So he's an easy stack play. He's 5,300. You can play somebody on the other side of him, or you can get access to this passing attack if you roster Cam and one of those receivers on New England and bring it back with the pass catchers on Miami. This could be a very good game to stack if that New England defense comes back a little bit from where it was last year. And yes, he had a horrible game here in week 2, but Miami was a team that we saw last year get involved in an awful lot of shootouts. The teams that I think are going to get involved in some shootouts this year, I mentioned Carolina, I mentioned Las Vegas. I also believe that Miami is still going to be a team that gets involved in some of these shootouts where if Fitz is the quarterback, they're going to have to pepper the ball to a lot of different guys to play catch up late in games. So guys, I appreciate you being here. I wish you the best of luck. Stay safe. I'll catch you with the next video. Bye.
He's a legend.